Party people, what's rocking? What's cracking with you? We are diving back into our 1 Corinthians 13 study, and we're stopping by in our next few descriptions of love, rather what love is not. Envious, proud, and boastful. So again, I have to continuously remind you not only of the context of the text that we're just digging through, but also just keep in mind that there is a lot of scathing and removing and flesh, if you will, on the floor as we're walking through this, because this love is such a high calling and is such a high opportunity that selfishness can't really be as present as we want it to be and as we've been moving with. So let's start by walking through the text again and dive right into it. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4 through 8 reads this: Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. Our study for this video. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. So the first description of our video, right? Envy. Okay, so what does this really mean? As it's transliterated from the Greek in this text, it is a zealousy effect. Okay, it's covetousness, right? Miscellaneous even. So this type of envy that we're discussing in this video actually has a lot to do with a lot of boiling anger. It's like a seeping hatred, if you will. I mean, it's honestly the epitome, if you will, of what actual hatred for somebody really is like. And when we get into this space, it gets extremely dangerous, and love just simply can't coexist where envy is present. So for example, when we talk about burning with hatred, right, it's this boiling, festering up anger. I got two things I want you to think about. One, I want you to think about for a second the one thing that makes you angry the most, whatever it is that just ignites a fury in your soul. I mean, you feel it. Once you think about it, you think on it too long, that thing gets you, puts a key in your back. You're going. Okay. Now check this out. That feeling that you catch whenever you're thinking on it and you think on it long enough, it just boils up a lot of anger. It boils up. That's the equivalent to the feeling, literally, physically, that envy can bring about in your actual body as you are moving in such a way towards someone else. And typically it's envy that roots from maybe something someone else has that you may not. Maybe you're envious over someone's happiness, someone's relationship, someone's job positioning, the money they make, the career they're having, the success they're doing. That's a lot of material things. How about envy over somebody else's healing, somebody else's deliverance, somebody else's way of life that seems to be so much cooler than yours or so much better than yours? It's a lot of envy that can be rooted in that space that, of course, we could also in some way, shape, or form connect to a form of comparison, because it's hard to not be envious when comparison is in play. Because when you're comparing other people, when you're comparing yourself to other people, you obviously see what you have and what you don't have based on who you're comparing yourself to. So you see a lot of lack. You focus in on the lack, but you don't necessarily focus in on the good, on the abundance, on what you already have and being able to multiply that where you are. One of the easiest ways for envy to set in is through comparison and through a boiling, angry hatred that is festered up in you as a result of seeing what somebody else has that you feel you may deserve, you may want, you may even feel entitled to, and you don't have. Also think about being in a situation where potentially you're a third wheel in a relationship that your best friend has. That relationship that your best friend has is going amazing. They're loving each other. They are hanging out with each other. Your best friend invites you to tag along. All is well. And slowly but surely, envy starts to set in because you don't like seeing them have so much fun together. You don't like being left out. You don't like the fact that you don't have a boo thing of your own. And so that envy sets in. It's very unsettling. A lot of resentment and even spite that starts kicking in as a result of what you're around. So what's a common result that can come out of that? Well, since I can't have a significant other and I don't like how this person is taking you away from me. How about I just look to try to throw a little wedge and a rift between the relationship, so at least we both don't have it together, instead of being loving, celebratory, and supportive of the healthy relationship that is taking place between your best friend and the person that they're seeing, of course, within confines of biblical grounds and all of those things that you can get behind from a biblical perspective. So I want you to consider that envy can't coexist with love, like we mentioned earlier, because where there's envy, there's a lack of support. There's a lack of genuine desire to see someone else move forward. There's a lack of desire to truly appreciate and love the individual that is being envied. Instead, it's just a lot of hatred. I can't have it, so nobody can have it. I want it and I can't have it, so that means you not gonna have it, even if that means I gotta destroy what you got and be a party pooper and a hater all the way through to make you feel what I feel because I don't have it. It's also a description not necessarily pertaining to this text, but just overall thinking of oftentimes what envy is compared to, which is a form of jealousy. Also has some kind of connotation to the idea of an earnest pursuit. And that's more so in the jealousy realm. And there is a such thing as a healthy jealousy, right? A healthy jealousy is one that desires good for the sake of others. And an unhealthy jealousy, which then routes us to a place of envy, which of course roots in hatred, disgust, spite, unsettling, it's begrudging. That is rooted in an unhealthy jealousy that only desires good for one's own sake. So there's a compare and contrast. The unhealthy jealousy is all about selfishness. It's all about what you want. It's all about what you're looking for. It's all about what you feel you're entitled to and deserve. Whereas a healthy jealousy has more of a selfless attitude, genuinely looking out for the best interest of another. And sometimes you can conflate those depending on how one may approach it, how one may communicate it. And we have to be careful with that in terms of just getting an understanding of where that person is coming from and being able to label if this is a genuine form of jealousy that's being shown, or is this more of like an unhealthy, controlling atmosphere of jealousy? When we talk about the healthy jealousy, I think here's a few tips I could potentially give you in terms of knowing the difference. Well, remember who you're talking to. Remember the relationship that you have with this individual. Also remember their intentions for you. Is this somebody who has consistently revealed to you that they have your best interest in mind? How is it said? How is it approached? Is it more of a question based? Is it more of a place of concern? Or is it the opposite, where it's very controlling? They don't want you to go nowhere. They don't want you to be with nobody else but them. They want to hog all of your time, take all of your time, don't allow you to continue moving and where you're called to be, where you're headed. What about just the idea of them wanting you to do everything they tell you to do because they feel that their way is always the best way, to the T? It's more of like a narcissistic entry, if you will. Pay attention to some of those cues, some of those thoughts, some of those approaches, and be sure to ask clarifying questions if you're confused, to be able to pinpoint, well, where is this energy coming from and where is it really going? But when we talk about envy, the biggest thing, according to this context and regarding love, that we have to keep in mind is that if envy is present, we can't really efficiently love people. We cannot genuinely, efficiently love someone's soul to the point where we really desire what's best for them, where we really, truly can be supportive of where they're going, what they're doing. We can really be of service and no strings attached to the service we give, because envy creates a very bitter, unsettling taste, and it ultimately ruins the relationship and causes drifts and rifts everywhere. So let's look at what it means for love to not be boastful. And love not being boastful actually has a very similar connotation to that of pride. Pride actually takes it a little bit of a higher step, and we'll get there. But looking at boast, again, the transliteration from the Greek word that's used to describe boast in this context is actually to vaunt itself. Okay. So there's a very braggadocious feeling, right? Walking around, sticking your chest out, feeling good. And what happens when we boast? It actually comes from a place of needing validation from the crowd, from others, appraisals, and wanting to be uplifted for something that was done or even not done for themselves. So essentially, Paul is saying does not brag, right? When you genuinely love someone, okay? And again, remember that this entire context is not just limited to romantic relationships. I just have to continuously reiterate that because this is a text that's often just solidified to marriage and romanticizing, when really we have all forms of relationships that we carry with people. And so this is something that we are called to live in, a space to continuously live in, and not just for an occasion, an event, or a specific relationship. Nevertheless, let's continue. This idea of love not being braggadocious is a love that's actually doing what it's doing. Okay, the activity, the actions, the words, everything that is said, that is done for the individual, it's actually a genuine move. It's not something that desires or is in need of validation from appraisals and upliftings from other people. And catch this, what's done in this genuine love that is not boastful, it also doesn't require the person that is being loved in this moment to reciprocate what's given, nor does it require that person to be a certain way or say something specific in order for what's done to then be validated and of great value. Let's look into it a little deeper. How many times have you given something to somebody and you were waiting for them to say thank you? I mean, it would have been the greatest disservice in life if they would have walked away from what you gave them, which you claimed to be out of love. You claimed to give it out of love. I was thinking of you. I wanted you to have this. This was really dope and I thought you'd love it. And you were just waiting, a pregnant pause for them to say thank you, for them to give gratitude. Now, before I continue, is that a wrong thing? Absolutely not. Is that a polite thing to say when something is given to you, to express a form of gratitude and say thank you? Because maybe they didn't have to go out their way to do that. There was nothing that was pushing them to get that for you, and they did. Of course it is. And of course, we're not suggesting that saying thank you and showing gratitude is a bad thing or is something that shouldn't be done. I think we can all understand that it's a very welcoming and productive thing to do. However, when we judge what we do based on someone's response for what's being done for them, we then begin to lose sight of why we're truly doing it in the first place. So here's a question that I would consider to you as food for thought. When you do things for others that you claim to be out of love, what would your reaction be if they never showed gratitude for what you did for them ever again? If they never said thank you, if they never were something, if it was never something that they returned back to you, would you still be okay with giving that gift? Would you still be okay with loving that individual? And I think if your answer is no, I think we have to actually press in and learn more about why that's the case. Why are you even really going out of your way to give this? Because truth be told, they may never say and show a form of gratitude to you ever again. They may never return that love back to you. Does that mean that what you gave was invalidated and wrong? Or does it mean that you were actually giving this because you were looking for some sort of validation? Because that's the only way that the love you claim to show is actually worth anything, if somebody were to return it back to you. See, this is the challenge. Literally, y'all, this is the challenge with living in this space of love. Recognizing that I do not need someone else to be something, do something, be a certain way for me to continuously live in a place of love towards them. Why is that? Hop over to this text with me and let's see why, especially as believers. This is something that we should really, really lock in on, because this actually is the blueprint. Literally, it's the blueprint to being able to live in a 1 Corinthians 13 kind of love. Come with me to 1 John. 1 John 4:19 reads this: we love because he first loved us. So I want to pause here for a second, because of course in this context, John talks about fear. John talks about love in a lot of this text, but he definitely hints as a few verses above about this idea of perfect love cast out all fear. And actually that entire context is actually prevalent to what we're dealing with, because oftentimes we are not willing to not only not be the first person to love, but not continuously be loving towards people because we're afraid that it's not going to be returned. And I do want to acknowledge here for a second, if you've been hurt, if that's something you've done in a previous time in life, I completely hear you and understand why the hesitancy is there. So we don't want to degrade that. We don't want to remove that. And we have an opportunity, even in the midst of that heartbreak and disappointment we faced, by loving someone first and it wasn't returned, by loving someone first and it wasn't something that they decided or chose to give back. We have an opportunity to reset our paradigm on what it really means to be loved through the scriptures, through our relationship with Jesus. I want you to think about anything you had to offer to Jesus. Was there anything that you had to offer to Jesus besides your sins and brokenness? I'll answer for me, absolutely not. And yet Jesus still loved me. Jesus still chose to desire a relationship with me. Jesus still expressed his love for me each and every day. He chose to go to the cross, the ultimate form and approval of love for us. He went to the cross. And so this love that we've discussed previously is matchless. This is what gives us the precedence to even be able to love somebody and it's not even returned, because we're not in need of their love. Would it be nice? Oh, sure, it could be. Even to the extent of marriage and romanticizing. Would it be nice that that person loves me? Yes. We are designed to love and be loved. And even though it may hurt that it's not returned, it's not something that's going to bury us underneath the earth's core and keep us from being able to continue to love and one day be loved by other people or someone else that we decide to potentially spend the rest of our lives with. Why can we say that? How can we say that? Because no matter what human love is granted to us, it cannot match the unconditional, extravagant love that God has poured out on us. And this is what allows us to move forward in being able to not only love first, but continuously love, not only because God is love, his love is unconditional, and I'll never be more loved than I am right now. But catch this, because they did it to him too. They did it to him too. He was the first one that they did it to. So we're in good company. And so this is what gives us the benefit of the doubt, the availability to continue moving forward in this love. So when we hint at this idea of boasting, what do you need validation for? Why are you continuously seeking validation for the love that you're giving? Do you feel that everything you're doing for this individual or for other people in the name of love is no longer beneficial because, well, they weren't appreciative of it? When we talk about boasting, do you feel that it's less valued when people aren't clapping their hands and giving you an appraisal across social media for how beautiful of a relationship you have, for how beautiful of a relationship with your friends you have, how amazing and desirous of a person you are, right? Everything you do just seems to be invalidated. Are you doing it for the likes? Oh, maybe you're doing it because you wanted sex out of that person. Oh, it got quiet in here. Maybe it's because the only reason that you gave that and you brag about it so much is because you want people to know that you're the dopest human being alive. Nobody can touch you. You that guy. You're the top G. So you just got it like that. What's the point? Let me ask you this question. Do you feel loved? Do you feel that it's a genuine motioning of love being done to you when somebody decides to take and express to the entire world, everybody they can, just go ahead and put it on a t-shirt. Hey, I bought this gift for you. Hey, I love this person. I loved them. I was there for them when nobody else was. How would you feel if that was like just broadcasted to everybody? How would you feel if that was something that was just told to everyone? Every day you were reminded about something they did for you. And it's in a very braggadocious manner. It's like they're keeping a list. They're just walking around. Yep, just like I gave you that gift, and I gave you them flowers, and I gave you that card, and I gave you that house and car, and I paid your rent, and I did all this. I let you stay at my house. I did all these kind of things. I'm just keeping a track. We'll get to that later because all these things connect. So that's why we sometimes can get ahead of ourselves. But we'll get into that later. But what does that look like for you? Is it less validating because something wasn't given to you in return? Imagine somebody giving you a gift and they took it right back because you didn't say thank you. Or they took it right back because you didn't give them a hand clap and a big old hug and a wet kiss. Or maybe if it's for a potential significant other, maybe they took the gift back because they were expecting you to give up something that night. Get into bed and lay in between them sheets because I gave you this. I went out of my way to, hook you up with this. And I kind of thought I was going to get a hookup too. Is that really love? If you ask me, Paul does not suggest that is a genuine formality of love, because all of that connects to self-seeking. So love isn't boastful. I don't have to put on a t-shirt and walk around telling everybody what I did for somebody. I don't have to pull out my phone and record myself giving something to someone. How degrading is that, by the way? I would feel pretty degraded. Now, here's what's so interesting. Because you see it all the time on social media, of course, they're probably going to still take what you grant them. So that's not the issue. The issue is your heart and agenda behind what you're giving them. Why do you do it? Why did you go out of your way to go get that individual who has nothing, something, and then be able to pull out your phone for some likes? And if it doesn't get 100,000, you're probably going to take the post down, right? Because that's what you did it for. Of course, I'm not attacking you, the viewer, because you may or may not, if you haven't done this. But if you have done it, why? Why? Is that really what love is about? No, it can't be. It can't be, because that does not come from a pure, genuine place. Love does not envy. Love can't coexist with boastfulness, because then you start to question, did you really do it for me, or were you doing it because you wanted the likes? Because you wanted validation from the people in the comment section to tell you how dope of a person you are and how beautiful of a relationship you have and how amazing your love is and how they wish they had something like you. So it makes you feel that much better than them. You hang it over their head? Do you use it as a weapon against them? You remember I got you all them gifts? Where mine at? Oh, you remember I got you? Is that genuinely love, y'all? Now, again, I want you guys to hear me when I say this, because I do think that there is a both and perspective here. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that you desiring something in return is a bad thing. We're human beings designed to love and be loved. That's not a bad thing, to want something you're doing for others to be reciprocated to you. And if that's the only reason why you're doing something, is that not worth a heart check? Is that not worth considering why you're even doing this? I had an opportunity to give a special individual in my life a gift. It was actually, I believe it was the third time that we got together. And I thought, man, let me get them a gift. And what was so interesting about the process of me getting them this gift was actually thinking to myself, what if after you give this gift, they don't talk to you no more?
Uh-oh.
What if they just cut you off, potentially ghost you, just leave? What if after this third date, this third opportunity, you give the gift and you get to talk to them no more? Don't even say a thank you. What happens? Are you still appreciative of giving this gift? And I had to sit with that for a second, because that was a question that I actually never truly considered from a genuine perspective, because I'm used to being in environments where, hey, you give a gift and, you say thank you and it's appreciated and all those kinds of things. And it makes you feel all good and fuzzy and nice inside, warm inside, right? But it was on thinking on this that I actually was able to get to a clearer view and perspective of really why I was given the gift. It wasn't because I'm looking for some form of gratitude or thank you from this individual. It's not because I want something from this individual. And if I don't get that desired outcome, then this gift is just a waste. But it was because this is how this individual feels loved. And I want to show that I truly, genuinely care and love for this individual with no strings attached. I don't need to tell everybody that I did something for them in order for what I did to be of value. It's still a value, whether two people know it, just me and the individual, or if a lot of people know it. It doesn't change the value. I had to genuinely ask myself that. So that's the question that I leave with you before we move forward to the last part, which actually connects to the boastful, which is pride. But why do you do what you do? Why do you express the love that you give to other people? Are you looking for something in return? Is there a desired outcome that you have in mind that, man, if you don't get it, this is kind of a waste? Because then you have to genuinely ask yourself, is that genuine love? And I have to be honest with you. Imagine if God did that to you and I. Just imagine what life would look like if God demanded something from you in return of the unconditional love that he gives, which Paul describes to us in Romans 8, nothing can separate us from. Think about how pure that love is, that no matter how low I am, no matter how far I fall, no matter how many times I mess up, no matter how many times I relapse and how many times I start over, no matter what I can do, I can't be separated from the love of God. Now, this does not mean I get to just abuse it, but this is a great picture of seeing how unconditional, no conditions, this love has for me, for us. So I just wonder if we actually were to get a taste of that love in our own lives from God, would we then be able to appreciate such love being shown to others from the lives we live toward them? Just a thought. Let's talk about pride, and then I'm out your face. So pride, as I said, is kind of connected to the boastfulness, because boastfulness has this idea that can easily lead to a description that's given in pride from the transliteration, which is arrogance. And so when you think of arrogant people, I've been arrogant before, maybe you have too, but you get this idea that you're better than others. Okay, actually, there's a description given behind a lot of the different descriptions given behind the Greek word that's transliterated, to be puffed up, to puff up. So to puff up, right, you're swelling up something that looks bigger than it really is. Right? Something that looks greater than it really is. Like when you get to the core of it, it's actually not that huge of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a problem. It's not that big of an issue, right? So, but then to be puffed up, we're talking more towards the individual. To be puffed up, we're talking about an individual who's, man, they really think they're the stuff. They really think that they are the stuff that can't tell them nothing. Okay, so to be puffed up. And then there's this description that I took note of that was so beautiful: to bear one's self loftily. And so loftiness, or being lofty, actually carries this connotation that we mentioned earlier regarding arrogance, as a form of feeling that you're superior than somebody else. So other people are beneath you because of what you do for somebody. Other people are beneath you because of how you move to other people. You know, maybe you think of your significant other as being beneath you because you do more loving things in an abundance than maybe they do. Maybe you think somebody is beneath you because the way they express love to you wasn't the way that you imagined it being. You expected it to be. Instead of an extravagant $200 meal, they took you to McDonald's and Wendy's. It was the money they had, and it was something that they were willing to share with you. But because you thought you were better than them, oh, I don't deserve this. This isn't love. Ugh. McDonald's. Ugh. I can't appreciate that. I just want you to consider how, do you hear how selfish that is? Do you hear how selfish it is when you believe that you're better than somebody because of a expectation you had on them that they didn't meet? I just want you to consider that. Then there's just so much stench of pride. You can't even recognize that what you're giving to them isn't love. Because it's how you want to love them. It's not about them. It's not about what they perceive, how they see it. You just want to do everything your way. your way or the highway. Cause I do all of this, I do all of that. So it's my way or the highway. A lot of pride in that. So as we wrap this video up, there's questions I just want to continue throwing at you as we dive into this text that I want you to consider when it comes to how you're loving right where you are. What is your agenda behind the love you give? What are you sugarcoating as love when it's really envy? You say you love them and you're looking out for them, but in reality, you don't want them to have that because you don't have it. You don't want them to have that relationship because you're single. You don't want them to be in that position because you're without it. It's really envy that creates a form of bitterness, and it's bubbling up into rage and anger, hatred. So you want to tear it down. No matter how much you got to do to tear it down, you want to tear it down. What are you sugarcoating as love? But it's really boastful. Because everybody in the world has to know why you did what you did for that person. Because everybody in the world has to know how dope of a person you are because of what you gave them, because of what you did for them, because of the time spent with them. When really you're not even looking to actually be loving in that present space. You're actually seeking validation because you aren't secure in the eternal love of the Father. And so because of that, you're looking for validation through social media, through the likes, through the retweets, through the comments. You're looking for validation from the praise of people, even from the person you gave the gift to, because that's the only way you believe that love is legitimate. When somebody tells you thank you, when somebody shows a form of gratitude. Can we go back to what we mentioned earlier? When somebody who you gave this gift to offers sex to you, then you're like, it's worth it. I'm just curious. Is that why you're loving them? Because you want to be able to brag about what you got from them in return? Because you want to be able to brag about what you did to make yourself look good? Which, if you go on too long, leads to pride. Are you loving people? Are you considering yourself to love other people? When really it's just you want to be better than them? You want to look better than other people? I'm better than you and you know it. Got it on a t-shirt. Because I would challenge you that that's not love at all. And what is at the center of envy, boastfulness, and pride is selfishness. The only reason why you did what you did wasn't because you genuinely cared about the individual, for their soul, for who they are. You didn't care about that. You cared only for your wants, your needs, your desires, your desired outcome. So it was only deemed worth it if your desired outcome came to pass, if your desired outcome showed up. And biblically speaking, that is not love. Because the person that embodies love and is love took on human flesh, made himself a servant, willingly chose to go to the cross for you and I, and suffered an excruciating death. And his love even reached the people that put him on the cross. How selfish is it of us to really consider our motionings and actions as love to people, when really we're doing it because they have something we want. And when they no longer give it, we're going to stop doing. And when they stop reciprocating, we're just going to leave. When they aren't reciprocating, they're just going to leave. This is tough. It's a hard pill to swallow, because I'm sure that there are moments and areas that you can reflect on where you thought you were loving the best you could, and you thought you were just such a loving and amazing person. But as I told you, there is a lot of flesh on the floor. There is a lot of flesh on the floor. And if we're really going to live in this love in an everyday fashion towards the relationships we build around us and to the people that we encounter, we have to move ourselves out of centerfold. Social media has done such a huge disservice in teaching and sharing messages that if somebody isn't reciprocating what you want, then you leave because you always deserve better. because it's always them. It's never you. And this love that we are challenged with in 1 Corinthians 13, notice how Paul is never addressing the other person on the other end of this equation. He's addressing us, the reader. It does not matter what somebody fails to do or chooses to do as a result of the love you give, because you can't control that. What you and I can control is how we choose to love, how we choose to approach others, and the consistency in which we move and live in that space. Recognizing that whether it's returned or it's not, the love that we are immersed in that gives us the ability to move in this space never changes. And that's the love that God has for us through Christ. I know you wanted it that way. I know you wanted to be that by this time. I know the whole deal. You wanted timetables. You wanted to be here and be there. I get you and I hear you, because these are the questions I've had to wrestle with too. But just realize that the further we go, the more flesh is on the floor. And it's up to you to choose to allow God to transform your heart to love more like him, or to continue down the selfish path that always ends, no matter where you go, in destruction, in failure, in missed opportunities, and not being effective and impactful with the love you choose to move in. So in our next video, we're going to cover what it means for love to be dishonorable, and it does not dishonor others. We're going to look at what that looks like, why love and dishonor cannot coexist, and we're going to cover why I believe that for someone to tell you they fell out of love with you is a bunch of malarkey, to say the least. So I appreciate you guys for checking out this video. And if you found it helpful, share it with somebody, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. And as always, until our next conversation, be easy and be breezy, my friends. Peace. Yo, listen, I've got something amazing in the works for you available right now. If you're somebody who's looking to make this year your best year yet at diving into your faith and allowing it to become more applicable in your life. Never known where to start. You've always been confused. It feels overwhelming. Maybe you feel you don't have time. You don't know how to apply the Bible into your life. You have so many questions and thoughts as to what makes sense. How does it make sense? Don't worry, your boy's got you covered with the Faith Factory. Click the link down in the description below, and in this Google document, you will find a plethora of resources that are at your disposal for you to be able to grow in your faith. I'm talking Bible plans, content creators to follow and subscribe to that better will enrich your faith, resources, links, books, all of that good stuff, even worship playlists, something to jam out to as you progress through your day. I really think this can be the start of something good for you and the lives around you by locking in and making sure that this year is your best year spiritually, therefore making it your best year ever. Don't forget to click the link in the description and go be great.